The sky over the planet Kylos was not blue anymore. It was a sickly pale yellow color that made the eyes water. The air was thin and hard to breathe. For 300 years, the people of Kylos had watched their world die slowly. They were a peaceful people. They liked to build tall, beautiful towers and study the stars. They did not like to fight. They did not have big guns or spaceships with weapons. They only had history and art. But now, history did not matter. The ground was shaking, and the acid rains were burning their crops. The High Council sat in a room made of gray stone. At the head of the table sat High Elder Tarek. He was very old, and his skin was wrinkled like dry paper. He looked around the table at the other elders. They looked sad and scared. Outside, the wind howled like a dying animal. "We have tried everything," Tarek said softly. His voice was weak. "We sent messages to the Galactic Federation. We begged for help, but they did not answer." An elder named Alara spoke up. She was younger than the others, but she looked tired. "The Federation is too far away, Tarek. They are busy with their own problems. They do not care about a small world like ours. They think we are too weak to save." Tarek nodded his head slowly. "Then we must look elsewhere. We must look to the fringe of space. There are rumors there. Rumors of a new race. Humans." The room became very quiet. The name human made many people feel nervous. The stories about them were strange. They said humans were loud. They said they were violent. They said humans fought wars over small things. But they also said humans were very brave and very good at building things. "The transmission is ready," Ilara said. She pointed to a large machine in the corner of the room. It hummed with a low power. "We can send a signal to their territory, but we do not know if they will listen. They are not part of the Federation. They do not follow our rules." Tarek stood up. He walked slowly to the machine. He placed his shaking hand on the cold metal. "We have no choice," he said. "If we do nothing, we die. We must ask them for sanctuary. We must ask them for a home." He took a deep breath of the bad air and pressed the button. A beam of invisible light shot up from the tower, racing through space. Tarek spoke into the microphone. His voice traveled across the stars. "This is High Elder Tarek of the planet Kylos. We are in danger. Our world is dying. We seek sanctuary. We have no weapons. We have resources. We have knowledge. Please, if anyone can hear us, help us." For a long time, there was only silence. The machine made a hissing sound. The elders waited. Minutes passed like hours. Alara looked at Tarek with hope in her eyes. Then, the machine crackled. A loud, harsh noise filled the room. A voice came through the static. It was not a calm voice like the elders. It was rough and deep. It sounded like stones grinding together. "Unidentified Kylosian vessel. This is the United Earth ship Vindicator," the voice said. "We received your signal. You are asking for sanctuary. That is a big request." Tarek quickly pressed the button to reply. Yes, we are. Our atmosphere is failing. We cannot survive here much longer. We have many people. We need a place to live." There was a pause. Then the human voice came back. "I am Commander David Miller. Listen to me carefully. We are not the Federation. We do not give charity. We are currently fighting a war on the other side of the sector. We do not have time to move millions of refugees to a new planet." The hearts of the elders sank. Tarek closed his eyes. "Then we are lost," he whispered. But the voice continued. "I am looking at your planetary scan. You are sitting on top of a massive deposit of heavy metals and rare crystals. Is that correct?" Tarek opened his eyes. "Yes. We have many mountains full of them, but we do not use them for war. We use them for art and buildings." "That doesn't matter to me," Commander Miller said. "Here is my offer. We cannot move you, but we can fix your world. We can stop the atmosphere from collapsing. We can shield you from the radiation. Alara stepped forward. You can do this. You can save our planet. We can, Miller said, but it will not be free. We need those resources. We need the metals and the crystals to build more ships and more weapons for our fight. We will come to Kylos. We will bring machines and workers. We will rebuild your shield. In exchange, your people will work for us. You will mine the mountains. You will load our ships. When we are done, you keep the fixed planet. We keep the resources. Do we have a deal? Tarek looked at Ilara. He looked at the other elders. It was a dangerous deal. They did not know these humans. They were violent people, but the alternative was death. The yellow sky outside was getting darker. The wind was getting stronger. We accept, Tarek said into the microphone. Please, come quickly. Copy that, Miller said. Sit tight, Elder. Help is on the way. 2 days later, the sky tore open. It was not a natural storm. It was the arrival of the human fleet. Tarek stood on the balcony of the high tower with Alara. They held onto the railing as the winds screamed. Above them, huge shapes appeared. They were not the smooth, silver ships of the Federation. These ships were black and gray. They were blocky and sharp. They looked like giant flying knives. Fire erupted from their backs as they slowed down. There were 5 large ships and 20 smaller ones. They blocked out the sun. The noise was deafening, a roaring sound that shook the buildings. They are here, Elar shouted over the noise. They are actually here. Tarek watched the biggest ship. It had long, strange tubes on the sides. He did not know if they were sensors or guns. It descended slowly, lowering itself toward the great plain outside the city. As the landing gear extended, the ground shook. Dust flew up in a giant cloud. They are terrifying, Tarek said. Look at them. They are machines of war. But they are our only hope, Elara replied. Commander Miller said he would send help. The large ship touched the ground with a heavy thud that could be felt for miles. A ramp lowered from the belly of the ship. It hit the dirt with a metallic clang. The dust settled slowly. Tarek and Alara watched from the tower. We should go down, Tarek said. We must greet them. We must show them respect. They walked down the long stairs of the tower and got into a small transport vehicle. They drove out to the landing site. When they arrived, they saw humans. There were dozens of them. They wore heavy suits that looked green and brown. They wore helmets that covered their faces. Some of them were driving strange vehicles with 6 wheels. Other humans were carrying large boxes. They were shouting at each other. They did not walk in a graceful, quiet way like the Kylosians. They stomped. They moved with urgency and purpose. They were already working. Tarek stopped his vehicle at a distance. He was afraid to get too close. Are they soldiers? He asked Alara. I think so, she said. And look, those ones with the tools. They must be the builders. Just then, a group of 3 humans broke away from the main group and walked toward the vehicle. They stopped 10 meters away. The one in the middle took off his helmet. He had short, gray hair and a face that looked hard and serious. He had a scar on his chin. Tarek opened the door and stepped out. The air was still bad, but he tried to stand tall. The human in the middle walked up to him. He was taller than Tarek. He looked down at the elder. I am Commander David Miller, the human said. He did not bow. He just looked Tarek in the eye. You must be High Elder Tarek. I am, Tarek said. His voice shook a little. Thank you for coming, Commander. We were desperate. Miller looked around at the dying landscape. He sniffed the air. Yeah, I can smell the sulfur. You weren't kidding about the atmosphere. It's a mess. He pointed a thumb over his shoulder at the ship. We brought gear. We brought engineers. We brought security. But we didn't come here to chat, Elder. We came to work. Tarek looked past Miller at the ship. He saw more humans coming down the ramp. Some were carrying large guns. Others were carrying strange machines he had never seen before. "We are ready to work," Tarek said. "But tell me, Commander, what happens now?" Miller put his helmet back under his arm. Now we get to work. We're going to dig in. We're going to set up a perimeter. And then, we're going to save your world, whether the galaxy likes it or not. Just stay out of our way and do exactly what my officers say, and we might all get through this alive." Tarek swallowed hard. He looked at the weapons. He looked at the grim faces of the humans. He realized that his people were no longer alone. They were now partners with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And as he looked back at his city, he knew that life on Kylos was about to change forever. They had asked for leaders, builders, and a savior. They had sent the humans. The work was about to begin. The sun rose over the dusty plain, but the air was still cold and thin. Inside the human camp, the noise started early. It was not the peaceful sound of birds or wind. It was the sound of heavy metal clanking, engines roaring, and loud voices shouting orders. High Elder Tarek stood on the balcony of his tower, watching the scene below with worry. The humans had set up their camp very fast. In just one night, they had built tall fences made of wire and sharp metal. They had put up large tents and brought out strange vehicles. Tarek did not understand half of the machines he saw. They were ugly, covered in grease and dirt, but they moved with power. Alara stood next to him. She held a data pad in her hand. They sent a message. "Tarek," she said, "the commander wants to meet with the council in 1 hour. He says they have a plan." "A plan?" Tarek asked. "I hope it is a plan to save us, and not just to take our gold." "We must listen," Alara said. "We made a deal." Tarek nodded. He was scared, but he knew she was right. He gathered the other elders, and they walked down to the human camp. The guards at the gate were big men and women holding large rifles. They wore dark glasses and did not smile as the elders walked past. Inside, there was a large table made of folding metal. Commander Miller stood there, looking at a map of the planet. Standing next to him was a woman. She was shorter than Miller, but she looked very strong. Her hair was tied back tight in a ponytail, and she had a scar on her cheek. She wore the same green uniform as the others, but hers had more markings on it. "This is Lieutenant Sarah Jenkins," Miller said, pointing to the woman. "She will be the leader of the ground team. You will talk to her about the work." Sarah looked at the elders. Her eyes were sharp. "Hello," she said. Her voice was loud and clear. "Let's get this started. I don't have all day." Tarek stepped forward. "We are ready to help," he said politely, "but we expected to discuss the evacuation ships. When can we leave this planet?" Sarah looked at Miller, and then she let out a short, hard laugh. "Evacuation? Did you not hear the commander yesterday? We are not leaving. You are not leaving. This is your home. You are going to stay right here." The elders began to murmur among themselves. They were confused. "But the planet is dying," one elder said. "The storms are getting worse. If we stay, we will die." "That is why we are here," Sarah said. She slammed her hand down on the table. "We are going to fix it. I have brought the best builders in the fleet. We are going to build machines that clean the air. We are going to build shields to stop the radiation. But we need you to work." "What kind of work?" Tarek asked. Just then, a large man walked into the tent. He was wearing a dirty shirt that said construction on the back. He was wiping oil off his hands with a rag. He had a cigar in his mouth, even though he was not smoking it. "This is Mike," Sarah said. "He is the chief builder. He will tell you what to do." Mike looked at the kids. They were thin, soft-skinned people who spent their time writing and reading. He shook his head. "Look at them," Mike said to Sarah. "They are weak. Can they even lift a hammer?" Alara felt insulted. "We are scholars," she said coldly. We have built towers that reach the clouds. We have knowledge. Mike chuckled. Knowledge doesn't dig ditches, sweetheart. We need to dig deep foundations for the atmospheric scrubbers. We need to clear the rock. We need heavy labor. Can your people do that? Tarek hesitated. He looked at his people. They were not used to hard physical labor. We have machines, Tarek said, but many are broken. Mike took the cigar out of his mouth and pointed a thick finger at Tarek. Then we will fix the machines. And if the machines can't do it, you do it by hand. I don't care if you are a king or a poet. If you want to breathe next year, you will pick up a shovel. Sarah stepped in front of Mike. Here is the situation, she said to the elders. My people will build the tech. Your people will provide the labor and the resources from the mines. We will trade safety for work. If you refuse, we get back on our ships and leave. You can die in the storm. The choice is yours. The tent was silent. Tarek looked at Sarah's stern face. He looked at Mike's rough hands. He realized there was no room for argument. These humans did not respect titles or history. They only respected results. We agree, Tarek said quietly. We will do whatever is necessary. Good, Sarah said. Mike, take them to the site. Start the briefing. For the next week, the planet changed. The quiet, scholarly life of the Kylosians was replaced by the loud, chaotic world of human construction. Mike was a hard taskmaster. He woke the Kylosians up before the sun came up. He forced them to wear heavy vests and hard hats. Ilara was assigned to work with Mike as a translator. At first, she hated it. Mike was rude. He shouted all the time. He complained about the Kylosians being too slow, faster. Mike yelled at a group of workers trying to move a metal beam. Lift with your legs, not your back. Do you want to be squashed like a bug? Ilara ran over to him. They are doing their best, Mike, she said. They have never done this before. Mike looked at her, sweat dripping down his face. Best isn't good enough, Ilara. We have a schedule. The solar flares are coming in 3 months. If that shield isn't up, everyone burns. Do you understand that? Everyone? Even the pretty ones who like to read books. Ilara stopped. She looked at the fear in his eyes. It wasn't just anger. It was urgency. He was scared too. I understand, she said. Good, Mike grunted. Now, tell them to move that beam over there. We have to pour the concrete before nightfall. As the days passed, Ilara began to see things differently. She watched the humans work. They never stopped. When they got tired, they drank a bitter black liquid they called coffee and kept going. They helped each other. If someone fell, 3 people were there to pull them up. She watched Sarah, too. Sarah walked around the camp with a rifle on her back. She talked to the workers. She checked the supplies. She made sure the perimeter was safe. One day, Ilara saw Sarah fixing a broken vehicle axle in the mud. The lieutenant of the guard was on her knees, covered in grease, turning a wrench. Ilara walked over to her. Why are you doing that? Ilara asked. You are the leader. Shouldn't you order someone else to do it? Sarah looked up, wiping grease from her forehead. Does it look like I have extra people? She asked. Everyone works. Everyone pulls their weight. That is how we survive. Out here on the fringe, there is no room for lazy people. It is different from our way, Ilara said. Your way was dying, Sarah said simply. She stood up and kicked the tire of the vehicle. Our way is messy and loud, but it keeps you alive. Get used to it. By the end of the 2nd week, the first structure was rising from the ground. It was a massive tower made of black steel. It hummed with power. It looked ugly next to the beautiful white stone towers of the Kylosians, but it was strong. Tarek visited the site with Ilara. He looked up at the steel tower. He saw humans and Kylosians working side by side. They were shouting orders in different languages, but they were building together. We asked for leaders, Tarek said softly to Alara, and we got them. Yes, Alara said. They are harsh. They are loud. But look, Tarek. Look at the air monitor near the tower. Tarek looked. The screen showed the oxygen levels. For the first time in 100 years, the number was going up. It was a small change, but it was there. They are doing it, Tarek whispered. They are actually fixing our world. Don't get too comfortable yet, a voice said behind them. It was Tom, the head of security. He was a big man with a bald head. He was scanning the horizon with binoculars. What is wrong? Alara asked. Tom lowered the binoculars. Miller just got a signal from the Vindicator in orbit. There is a ship approaching. Not a human ship. It doesn't have a transponder. Pirates? Tarek asked, his voice shaking. Maybe, Tom said. He checked his rifle. Or maybe slavers. Either way, we are not ready for a fight yet. Mike, get the shield generators online now. Sarah, rally the teams. The camp suddenly changed. The workers stopped building. The soldiers grabbed their weapons. The friendly partnership was suddenly put to the test. The humans had brought their builders to save the world. But now, it seemed, the bombers might be needed sooner than they thought. The sky above Kylos was about to get very crowded. The warning siren echoed across the dusty plain, cutting through the noise of the construction site. It was a loud, terrifying sound that made the ground feel like it was vibrating. For the Colossians, who had lived in peace for centuries, the sound was like a nightmare coming true. Alara stood next to a large stack of metal beams. She looked up at the sky, shielding her eyes. The air was still yellow and toxic, but now it was filled with movement. What is happening? She asked, her voice shaking. Mike, the human builder, was standing nearby. He did not look scared. He looked angry. He grabbed his radio and shouted into it. This is Mike. We have a red alert. All construction crews, drop your tools and get to the shelters. Move, move, move. Above them, the human ships were taking off. The EU's Vindicator was huge, but it moved fast. It turned its massive guns toward the edge of the atmosphere. Who are they? Alara asked again. She grabbed Mike's arm. Is it the Federation? Mike pulled his arm away gently but firmly. No, kid. It's not the Federation. The Federation doesn't move that fast. They are slavers. They see the lights on our scanners, and they smell fresh meat. Slavers, Tarek said, running up to them. He was out of breath and his face was pale. They will take us. If they can, Mike said. He reached behind a stack of crates and pulled out a large weapon. It looked like a rifle, but it was much bigger and heavier. But they have to get through us first. Sarah, the human leader, ran up to the group. She was carrying a helmet and a datapad. Her face was covered in dirt, but her eyes were focused. Mike, I need the scrubbers online now. Not tomorrow. Now? Mike cursed. I need 3 more hours to calibrate the grid, Sarah. If I turn it on now, it might overload. We don't have 3 hours, Sarah said sharply. She pointed at the sky. Look, they are launching. They are going to land right here. Ilara looked up. Small, ugly ships were dropping out of the big pirate vessels. They looked like black beetles falling from the sky. They were heading straight for the human camp and the Kylosian city. Tarek, Sarah said, turning to the High Elder. Get your people into the deep mines. Not the cellars. The mines. They are the only places strong enough to protect you if the shields fail. But we want to help, Tarek insisted. We cannot hide while you fight for us. You can help by staying alive, Sarah said. We need you to pay us, remember? Dead people don't pay debts. Go. Tarek looked at Alara. Go, Alara said. I will stay. I can help translate. Tarek hesitated, but then he nodded. He ran off to gather the other elders. Alara turned back to Sarah. I can shoot a rifle, Alara said, trying to sound brave. I practiced on the targets yesterday. Sarah looked at her for a second, then handed her a smaller weapon. Stay behind the sandbags. If anything gets close to the medical tent, shoot it. Ilara took the gun. It was heavy and cold. She ran to the position Sarah pointed to. She crouched down behind a wall of sandbags. Her heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. Mike was typing furiously on a console, near the base of the unfinished tower. "Tom," he yelled, "get your squads ready. They are coming in hot." Tom, the bald head of security, was directing his soldiers. "Squad 1, take the left ridge. Squad 2, cover the entrance. Wait for my command." The first dropship hit the ground with a crash. Dust and rock flew everywhere. The door of the ship opened, and strange creatures ran out. They were the Xylots. They had 4 legs and 2 arms, and they carried sharp weapons and laser guns. They screamed, a high-pitched war cry. "Fire!" Tom shouted. The sound was deafening. The human soldiers opened fire. Bolts of red and blue energy shot across the plain. The Xylots fell one by one, but there were many of them. More ships landed. More creatures came out. Ilara watched from her hiding spot. It was chaos. The humans did not fight like the stories she had read. They did not stand in a line and shout orders. They moved fast. They rolled on the ground. They hid behind rocks and tanks. They worked together like a single machine. Suddenly, a group of Xylots broke through the line. They ran straight toward the command tent. They were screaming and firing their weapons wildly. Hostiles breaching the perimeter. Tom shouted over the radio. Ilara saw them coming. She raised her rifle. Her hands were shaking. She remembered what Tom had told her. Asterisk, aim for the chest. Squeeze the trigger slowly. Asterisk, she pointed the gun at the lead creature. She took a deep breath. She fired. The gun kicked back against her shoulder, hitting her hard, but she saw the creature fall. She had hit it. She could not believe it. She fired again, and again. The other creatures returned fire. Lasers hit the sandbags near her head, sending sand into her eyes. "I need help here," Ilara screamed. Suddenly, Sarah was there. She jumped over the sandbags and fired her big rifle. Boom, boom, boom. 3 Xylots fell down instantly. Sarah didn't even look at them. She grabbed Ilara by the shoulder. "Good job, kid," Sarah said, "but you need to reload." Mike's voice came over the loudspeaker. It was distorted by static, but it was loud. "Shields are up. I'm pushing the power to the limit. Get behind the towers." A low hum started to vibrate through the ground. The air around the tall black towers began to shimmer. A blue light appeared, connecting the towers together. It was a shield. The Xylots who were outside the shield fired their weapons. The lasers hit the blue light and stopped. They could not get through. The humans inside the shield were safe for now. "Nice work, Mike," Sarah said into her radio. "How long can you hold it?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Mike shouted back. "The grid is overheating. If I hold it too long, the generators will explode." "Hold it as long as you can," Sarah said. She looked at her soldiers. "All units, regroup at the tower. We are making a stand here." Ilara reloaded her weapon and looked at the sky. The battle in space was getting worse. The big pirate ships were firing at the Vindicator. The human ship was firing back. Explosions lit up the sky like fireworks, but there were too many pirate ships. "Commander Miller is in trouble," Ilara whispered. Sarah heard her. "Miller knows what he is doing," she said. "We have to do our job down here." Suddenly, the ground shook violently. One of the Xylot dropships, damaged by the Vindicator, crashed into the shield. It broke through. The ship tumbled across the ground and smashed into a building near Ilara. Dust covered everything. The shield flickered and died. The blue light vanished. "It's down," Mike yelled. The crash took out the main relay. "Open fire," Tom screamed. The battle was close now, hand to hand. The Xylots ran through the gaps in the fence. The humans fought them with knives and guns. It was brutal. Ilara saw a Xylot running toward Mike. Mike was trying to fix the generator, but he did not have a weapon. The creature raised its claws to strike. Mike, Ilara shouted. She stood up and fired. She missed. The creature kept coming. Suddenly, Tom appeared from the side. He tackled the creature. They fell to the ground. Tom punched the creature hard, then pulled a knife and ended the fight. He stood up, breathing hard. He looked at Ilara. Thanks for the warning, kid, Tom said. He looked at Mike. Are the generators back up? Mike was typing with bleeding fingers. Almost. Got it. The lights on the tower flickered. Then, with a loud zap, the shield came back to life. The hum was stronger this time. The Xylots who were inside the shield were trapped. Those outside were blocked. Finish them, Sarah ordered. The humans fired at the remaining Xylots inside the circle. In a few minutes, it was over. The silence that followed was heavy. The only sound was the wind and the distant booming of the space battle. Ilara slumped down against the sandbags. She dropped her rifle. Her hands were dirty and shaking. She looked around. Humans were helping each other. Some were hurt. Doctors were running to help them. Sarah walked over to Ilara. She had a cut on her arm, but she did not seem to notice. She sat down next to Ilara and took a drink of water from a canteen. You are alive, Sarah said. It was not a question. I killed one, Ilara said. She felt sick. I took a life. Sarah looked at her. You saved your life. You saved Mike's life. That is how it works now. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Ilara. You can be a scholar, but you also have to be a soldier now. Ilara looked at the dead Xylot on the ground. Then she looked at the city in the distance. The shield was humming, protecting the city. The humans had fought and bled for them. They were not just builders. They were warriors. We asked for sanctuary, Ilara whispered. They sent us guardians. Sarah smiled tiredly. Yeah, don't forget it. She stood up and put her helmet back on. Now, help me get the wounded to the medical tent. We have a lot of work to do before the next wave comes. Ilara stood up. She did not feel like a scholar anymore. She felt like part of the crew. She picked up her rifle and followed Sarah into the smoke. The planet was dying, but today they had kept it alive, and they would keep fighting for it. The smoke from the battle still hung in the air, mixing with the yellow dust of the planet. The attack had been stopped, but the cost was high. Parts of the human camp were on fire, and the ground was covered in craters. The Xylot slavers had been fierce, but the humans had been tougher. Now, the real work began. Ilara walked through the camp, carrying a box of medical supplies. Her hands were still shaking a little, but she felt stronger than she had a day ago. Everywhere she looked, humans and Kylosians were working together. The initial fear was gone, replaced by a determined energy. She found Mike near the main power generator. He was lying on his back, under a large machine, welding a broken pipe. Sparks rained down on his face, but he did not blink. Ilara knelt beside him. How is the shield holding up? She asked. Mike slid out from under the machine. He wiped sweat and grease from his forehead. It's holding, but it's weak. The crash took out a lot of power. We need to get the secondary scrubbers online if we want to breathe easier. I need more hands, Ilara. A lot more. Ilara looked toward the Kylosian city. I can get them. The people saw what you did yesterday. They saw you fight for us. They are not scared anymore. They are ready. Good, Mike said, standing up. Because this isn't just about patching holes anymore. We need to expand the grid. If we want to save this world, we need to cover the whole northern hemisphere. Ilara ran back to the city. The elders were gathered in the main hall, looking worried. When she walked in, they all looked at her. Tarek stood up. The humans. Are they leaving? The battle was fierce. They might think we are too much trouble. They are not leaving, Elara said firmly. They are asking for help. Mike needs workers. Hundreds of them. We have to go to the old quarry and help them dig out the new generators. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, a young Kylosian named Jorik stood up. He was a historian, a man who usually worked with dusty books. I will go, Jorik said. I cannot fight like Tom, and I cannot build like Mike, but I can carry rocks. I can dig. My hands are soft, but my back is strong. And I, said an older female named Myra, this is our home. We must build it. Soon, the entire hall was filled with voices. We will go. We will help. Elara smiled. She led the first wave of volunteers out of the city. There were 200 of them. They walked to the human camp, singing an old work song. It was a slow song, but it had a good rhythm. When they arrived at the quarry, the humans were surprised. Tom was there, directing a large excavator. He watched the crowd of Colossians approaching. He put his hands on his hips and shook his head. Look at this, Tom said to Sarah, who was standing next to him. They don't have weapons. They don't have armor, just tools and smiles. Sarah nodded. They have courage, Tom. That counts for a lot. Mike walked over to the group. He looked at Jorik. You are a historian? Mike asked. I am, Jorik said. But today, I am a builder. Mike grinned. Fair enough. Get a shovel. We need to clear that ridge by sundown. For the next week, the quarry was the busiest place on the planet. Humans taught Kylosians how to use heavy machinery. Kylosians taught humans the history of the rock layers, helping them find the strongest stone. They worked from sunrise to sunset. At first, the Kylosians were slow. They got tired quickly. But the humans pushed them, and they pushed back. They shared water and food. They told stories. Elara saw Tom laughing at a joke Jorik told. She saw Sarah helping an elderly Kylosian lift a heavy beam. One afternoon, a loud alarm rang out. It was not a battle alarm. It was a storm alarm. The acid winds were picking up. The sky turned dark purple. Everyone get down, Mike shouted. Cover the equipment. A massive wall of dust and wind hit the camp. It was so strong it blew over tents. The shield generator hummed loudly, trying to keep the toxic air out, but the wind was hammering against it. The intake valves are clogging, Mike screamed over the wind. If we don't clear them, the shield will collapse. He ran toward a tall pipe near the base of the tower. The wind was blowing debris everywhere. It was dangerous to go outside, but Mike ran anyway. Elara saw him go. She looked at the other workers. They were huddled down, fear in their eyes. We have to help him, Elara shouted. He is crazy, Jorik yelled back. The wind will tear us apart. Mike is out there saving us, Elara said. She grabbed a heavy tool. If the shield goes, the city dies. Come on. To her surprise, Jorik stood up. And then Mira stood up. Then 10 more. They ran into the wind, following Elara. They reached the base of the tower. Mike was trying to climb a ladder to the valve, but the wind was knocking him down. I can't reach it. He coughed. Elara. And Jorik grabbed Mike's arms. They anchored him. Climb, Elara shouted. We have you. With their help, Mike climbed up. He used a wrench to force the valve open. A blast of steam came out, but then the generator roared back to life. The blue light of the shield stabilized. The wind howled outside, but inside the circle, it was calm. Mike climbed down, sliding the last few feet. He landed on his knees, breathing hard. He looked at Elara and Jorik. Their clothes were torn, and they were covered in dirt. You guys are crazy, Mike said, coughing. But you are good workers. We learned from the best, Elara said, smiling. The storm lasted for 2 days. When it finally cleared, The air felt different. It was cleaner. The scrubbers were working at full power. The sky was no longer yellow. It was a pale, beautiful blue dot. Tarek came to the camp after the storm. He walked with Commander Miller. They stood on a hill overlooking the site. The construction was moving faster than ever. The new towers were rising. The mines were producing resources. I have never seen anything like this, Tarek said to Miller. My people, they have changed. They are harder, stronger. That is the spirit of survival, Miller said. Your people had it in them all along. They just needed a reason to fight for it. We have paid you with the R, Tarek said, but we feel we owe you more. You gave us your lives. Miller looked at the humans working below. He looked at Sarah bandaging a worker's hand. He looked at Tom teaching Kylosians how to load a rifle. We didn't do it for free, Miller said. We did it because we need allies in this sector. We need a home away from home, and frankly, your people aren't half bad when they are angry. Tarek laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in months. Then let us make this official. We are no longer just refugees asking for help. We are partners. We are the builders of Kylos. Miller nodded. Partners? I like the sound of that. Suddenly, a loud cheer went up from the quarry. Mike had just turned on the main power grid for the city. Lights twinkled in the capital city of Kylos, for the first time in years. They were bright, steady lights powered by human technology and Kylosian hard work. Ilara stood with Jorik and Mira, watching the lights. We did it, she whispered. We survived, Jorik said. And now, we are ready for whatever comes next. But even as they celebrated, Elara looked at the edge of the system. She knew the galaxy was watching. The pirates had been defeated, but there would be others. And now Kylos was a prize. It was a living planet with a strong defense. She knew the humans would not leave, and she knew the Kylosians would not want them to. They had asked for sanctuary. They had sent the humans, and in the process, they had found their own strength. The partnership was forged in fire and sweat, and it would not break easily. 6 months had passed since the humans arrived. The planet Kylos looked like a different world. The sky was no longer a sickly yellow. It was a bright, clear blue. White clouds floated gently above, something the elders had only seen in old history books. The air smelled sweet and clean. The acid rain had stopped, and green plants were starting to grow on the brown plains. In the center of the new city stood a statue. It was not a statue of a god or an ancient king. It was a statue of a human hand and a Kylosian hand gripping each other. It was made of the same black steel the humans had used to build the towers. Ilara stood in the main control room of the city. She was wearing a uniform that matched the humans, but she had a Kylosian symbol on her shoulder. She was watching the monitors. The atmospheric shields were running at 100% efficiency. The mines were producing tons of ore, and the human ships were taking it to the fleet. Everything looks good, Mike said, walking into the room. He was still dirty, and he still had a cigar, but he looked happier. The new water treatment plant is working perfectly. Your people won't have to boil their water anymore. It is a miracle, Ilara said. Tarek wants to make a speech today. He wants to thank the fleet. Mike nodded. Miller is coming down for it. It's a big day. Later that afternoon, the entire city gathered in the Grand Plaza. Thousands of Kylosians stood side by side with human soldiers and workers. There was no fear anymore, only respect. They had worked together, bled together, and built a new world together. Commander David Miller stood on the podium. He looked out at the crowd. He saw faces of all colors, but he saw the same eyes of survivors. 6 months ago, Miller began, his voice strong. I stood on a dusty landing pad and made a deal. I told you that humans do not give charity. We trade, we fight, we build. We did not come here to save you. We came here because we needed resources. The crowd listened quietly. But something happened that we did not expect, Miller continued. We found partners. We found friends. When the slavers came, you did not hide. You picked up rifles. You stood in the mud with us. When the storms came, you held the lines so we could fix the machines. He pointed to the statue in the distance. This planet is alive today because of the blood and sweat of humans and Kylosians together. We asked for your labor, and you gave us your courage. In return, we gave you a future. The crowd cheered. It was a loud sound, a mix of human shouts and Kylosian musical hums. Tarek stepped up to the microphone. The old elder looked strong now. We asked the galaxy for sanctuary, Tarek said. The Federation ignored us. The pirates hunted us. But the humans, they sent us leaders like Sarah, who taught us to fight. They sent us builders like Mike, who taught us to make the earth strong. They sent us bombers like Tom, who kept the darkness away. Tarek looked at Alara and smiled. We asked for a handout. Instead, we learned to stand on our own feet. Thank you, Commander Miller. Thank you, people of Earth. After the speech, there was food and music. The humans tried Kylosian food, which was very sweet. And the Kylosians tried human coffee, which they found very bitter but energetic. Ilara found Sarah near the edge of the plaza. Sarah was looking up at the sky, where the EU's Vindicator was floating. Are you leaving? Ilara asked. She felt a pang of sadness. Sarah turned around. No, she said. Miller has ordered a permanent garrison here. Kylos is now a supply base for the 7th Fleet. We are going to build a space dock in orbit. Ilara's eyes lit up. You are staying. We are staying, Sarah said. We have too much invested here. Besides, Tom says the training program for your new police force is going well. You guys are getting pretty good with those rifles. Ilara smiled. We learned from the best. A few days later, the humans received a transmission from the Galactic Federation. It was an official message sent to the commander. Miller played it on the big screen in the war room. A tall blue alien with a jeweled robe appeared. He looked very arrogant. Commander Miller of Earth, the alien said, we have received reports that you have occupied the Kylosian system. This is a violation of Federation protocols. You must withdraw immediately and allow us to assess the refugee situation. Miller leaned back in his chair and took a sip of his drink. He looked at Sarah and Tom. They were grinning. Miller pressed the button to reply. This is Commander Miller. Withdrawing is not an option. The Kylosians have signed a mutual defense pact with the United Earth government. They are our allies. And as for the refugee situation, there are no refugees here, only citizens. The alien looked shocked. Allies. But they are a weak, primitive race. They cannot be allies of a rogue faction like yours. Watch your mouth, Sarah said softly. But her voice carried over the comms. Miller continued. Furthermore, if any Federation ship enters this system without permission, they will be treated as hostile. We have new planetary defenses. I suggest you stay away. The screen went black. Tarek, who was standing in the corner of the room, looked nervous. Will they attack us? He asked. No, Miller said calmly. They are bullies, Tarek. They only attack the weak. They saw the battle reports from the pirate attack. They know we have bombers, battleships, and now, a fortified planet. They will not risk it. Miller walked over to Tarek and put a hand on his shoulder. You are part of the team now. Nobody touches you without going through us. That evening, Ilara walked to the top of the highest tower. The air was cool and fresh. She looked out over the city. The lights were shining brightly. She saw the human flags flying next to the Kylosian banners. She remembered how scared she was when the first ship landed. She remembered the noise and the guns. Now, those sounds felt like safety. The humans had brought chaos, yes, but they had brought order too. She looked at the stars. She knew the galaxy was a dangerous place. There were more wars to fight. There were more enemies out there. But she was not afraid anymore. She looked at her hands. They were calloused from work, just like Mike's. They sent us leaders, builders, and bombers, she whispered to the wind. And they made us warriors. She turned around and walked back down the stairs to join her friends. The humans were staying. The planet was alive. The sanctuary was not a place they went to. It was a place they had built. It was strong. It was armed. And it was theirs. The story of Kylos was over, but the legend of the Human-Kylosian Alliance was just beginning, and the galaxy would learn to fear them both.